I'm Bill Scott. I'm the COO of Easel TV. Easel TV is a specialist software company focusing on the delivery of premium entertainment services to multi-screen devices. OTT services are evolving quite rapidly, and things like Amazon Prime and Netflix they've kind of set the bar in some ways, but they're also not that hard to beat if you've got a bit of local content and local market knowledge as well. So we found that it does set an expectation for consumers in a particular market. If Netflix launches there or Amazon Prime launches there, that establishes a model for paying for over-the-top content, for the use of applications on smart TVs, on mobile devices as well. And so we see that as being generally a very good thing for the market, because it's establishing a pattern of behavior, it's establishing consumer expectation around the way that content can be consumed. And it's also establishing an expectation around the consumption of content across multiple devices and the need to make that seamless across multiple devices. I think the consumer is now in charge of the way that they consume content, and so the response that generates from people producing multi-screen applications and things like Netflix and Amazon is that it creates a demand for a seamless multi-screen experience. It creates a demand for a high-quality experience. People expect television to work. They don't expect it to work 99% of the time. They expect it to work, and so that expectation from the television history, and television has always been like that, is coming back into companies that you might consider to be more technology providers, and that's been very good. I think the other thing that drives the expectation of content is how much are you paying for it. If it's an old TV series, then perhaps your expectation of quality is slightly lower than if it's a day and date movie that's come out the same day that's in the cinema, and you may have paid a premium price to watch it. And if you have paid a premium price for it, then you are going to expect that to work really well, for it to sound nice, to have a really crisp picture. And I think the days of having a fairly poor quality over-the-top service as being acceptable, those days are now disappearing, and we now have to deliver a very high quality service with good sound, good picture, and a reliable experience, and that's very important. Well, OTT certainly is going to be a really important part of the future of broadcasting, and it's an opportunity and a threat. It's a bit of a cliche, all of that, but it really does enable people to enter a market, and so you can argue that OTT and therefore the personalization of content, the on-demand delivery of content, makes the television industry potentially much more efficient, because we're not paying a huge amount of money to reach an potentially unknown audience size. We can reach exactly the audience that we want to reach with the right content at the right time. And so that means that the industry can be more efficient. It means it can be more globalized, and so players like Netflix and Amazon can come along and they can enter a market. They can have the majority of the content will be acquired on a global basis, and some local content will make that a relevant service for that particular market. That then is a challenge to people that are used to having a market, that are used to having legacy prominence in the program guides. That challenges that traditional model, whether that prominence is due to regulation or just history or legacy. It doesn't really matter. That prominence is now very much under threat. But if the local incumbents to a market can that have had that prominence in the past, if they can translate their knowledge of that market into a successful over-the-top offering, then they can respond to the threat from these global players. They can deliver a relevant local experience that is in many ways differentiated from the global players, and there's room in this market for the global players that offer a big chunk of content that is to some extent commoditized, and then local content that's more relevant to that specific audience will complement that. And there's no reason why you can't have those the smaller players, the traditional players that have thrived in their market. They can continue to do so, and over the top can help them to do that. But there's also a role for the bigger players as well. One thing that we think is really important about the over-the-top consumer experience is to remember the context of the device that you're targeting. A mobile device is very different to a PC. A PC is very different to a television. And just because the technology that is used to deliver content to a TV is an application, that doesn't mean that the user interface for that application has to be the same as it would be on a mobile device or even on a website on a PC. So we think that delivering an OTT experience to a television, that experience should be televisual. And by that I mean that the experience needs to be relevant to that device. The television is potentially a shared device, it's a big screen, you're leaning back, you're enjoying the experience. It's a relaxation much more than it is a personal chore to go and look at things on a mobile phone. And so the user experience needs to reflect that, and we think that means making it more like watching a TV channel than using an app. And if you look at things like Netflix or Amazon Prime, when you arrive in the application, you're faced with a menu and you have to do something, you have to choose something. Whereas the approach we take is to say, no, let's not make it an application, let's make it a TV channel. Let's play content, let's get people to see what's available. Perhaps we play a sequence of trailers if it's a movie proposition, or preview clips or some kind of promotional content, but we're playing content right from the very beginning. We might start with a show reel that talks about the sort of content that's coming in the next month, and that show reel is changed every month. We then go into a featured playlist of content, and that's changed maybe 2 or 3 times a week so that it's always fresh. So you can come back again and again and you'll get a fresh experience. And then you just watch those trailers, you watch those previews, and you select the one that you want to watch. It's the way that cinema has worked for a long time. Obviously it's not interactive, but you sit in the cinema, you watch a series of trailers and you think, oh, I'm going to come and watch that one next week. So we're doing the same thing on the television. Same thing with Blu-ray discs. You watch a Blu-ray and you watch perhaps a sequence of trailers before you watch the film, and that helps you to choose which disc you might go and watch next time. So we're doing the same thing with OTT, and we think it's really important to try and capture that televisual experience. The serendipity of television. Television's always been about suggesting content to consumers, giving them the illusion of choice, but actually they don't want to choose from thousands of different titles. They want to choose from a small subset. They want to respond to a suggestion. That's how you might flick channels on the TV. We're skipping from one trailer to the next. It's the same basic principle. It's trying to get that lean back experience, adding interactivity, adding the ability to choose what you watch on top of that. And that's what we feel is a really good OTT experience.